Welcome to day 15 of the 30-day wholesale challenge. Today we're going to talk about purchase contracts. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you and go over the contract. There's a couple things you need to know about the contract. Okay, number one, this contract is the only thing that's going to keep you out of trouble when you are wholesaling real estate. So make sure that you put the terms in there that you can live with, okay? When you're working through your EMD, you want to be as low as possible, okay? Or you want to put that your EMD will be placed after your inspection period. That will help you to not have to come out of pocket, okay? If you do not place the EMD, you do not have a valid contract. So if you plan on using your buyer's funds to use for your EMD, if you're going to use their EMD as yours, you need to make sure in this contract you state that your EMD will be placed after your inspection period. Okay, there's a couple things that we do when a seller wants a larger EMD. What I will do is I will put $100 to start off with and then additional EMD after the inspection period. Okay, that EMD is the seller's recourse if something happens and you don't close. Okay, another thing I want to discuss is your inspection period. Your inspection period is the time you have to find a buyer. Okay, your inspection period says you have so much time to inspect the property and make sure you want to close without losing your deposit. So if you go past your inspection period, the seller can in fact sue you for what's called specific performance, which means you have to close on the property. So if you haven't negotiated properly, you may get stuck with something. So make sure you pay attention to those dates, okay, because they are very, very, very important. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll be back with you in just a few minutes, and we'll go over your home.
Okay, the first contract we're going to go over is the short-term or short version real estate purchase contract. This is not the state contract from my state, but this is one that is used quite a bit, and I'm going to show you the places that you need to have filled out, where you need to get the information from, and all of that. Okay, so first let's start off with the purchaser. That would be you or whatever company you decide you're purchasing through. And the second line, owner, would be the seller. Now, when you're putting the seller information in here and the property information, it is very, very, very important that you are pulling this information from the county records. Okay, if this information is incorrect, you could be trying to purchase the wrong property. They could be trying to sell the wrong property and give you an invalid contract. So make sure that you're getting this, the owner's name, the actual address, the county, the state, and the legal description. All needs to be in this contract. And I've had a couple students who just basically took the seller's word for it and ended up being a fraudulent contract. It was a previous renter who they had reached through their skip tracing and decided they were going to try and get some money out of the guys. So make sure you're pulling that information and that you're actually talking to the seller of the property. Okay, and then you get your purchase price, and then you're going to put subparagraph would be whichever paragraph you're going to use. When you're talking with the seller, you're going to probably put that it is a cash sale. Okay, we're going to go over these other things here later in this video, but for our purposes, when you're dealing with the seller, it's going to be subparagraph A, which would be a cash purchase. Okay. The next thing is your earnest money deposit. When you are dealing with the seller, you're going to try and put as little down as possible. I generally, with my contracts, put down $100. If the seller has issue with $100, I can add or will add additional escrow or earnest money at the end of the inspection period. That way the earnest money is coming from my buyer and not from me. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing earnest money deposits. Okay, also keep in mind that a contract is not valid without a deposit. So you have to have a number in there, and you have to put the money down at the title company to make this a valid contract. So even if you put $10, you have to put something. Okay, that makes it legal. Paragraph 3 talks about taxes and who's going to pay the taxes. Okay, my suggestion to you, if you're going to use the contract, is read it. Read it thoroughly and make sure you understand what it's saying before. Okay? Purchasers shall be given possession of the property on, and that is going to be your closing date. Okay? And this particular contract saying that seller will pay the purchaser a certain amount of money per day as damages for not closing on time. Okay? And you've got your risk of loss, your improvements and fixtures, general conditions. Make sure you put your state in the general condition, or in your general conditions, saying that the laws of that state will prevail. This is generally the state of where the property is located. So if you're doing virtual wholesaling and the property is located in Florida, you want to make sure this says Florida. Okay, if the person lives in North Carolina and the property is in Florida, you want this to say Florida and not North Carolina. Okay? Buyer may assign and be released. Make sure you have some type of assignment in your contracts. Okay? Special conditions. This is where you're going to put any kind of seller concessions that you're allowing. For example, if the seller needs to stay in the property for 2 weeks after the closing to move out, you can put in there that seller will have post-occupancy of X number of days, and $5,000 or $10,000 will be held in escrow until such time as property is vacant. Okay? And this section 11 here says they have to notify you in writing that they're accepting this by this time on this date. Okay? Closing shall take place however many days after receipt of title and when you're making the offer. And then you would sign it. And seller, if they're accepting it, they would sign here. If there's a brokerage fee, you would put that in here. If there are no brokers involved, you would put NA on there. Now, I didn't see, hold on a minute. It's not a necessary thing for you to do, but most investors will put in your special terms, since it's not written in the contract, that you will pay the seller the traditional seller closing costs. Traditional seller closing costs include the title search, the title fees, the transfer fees, that stuff. What it does not include are your liens, your judgments, your real estate taxes that are due from the seller for the time they had the property, or brokerage commissions. Okay, so if there is a real estate broker involved or real estate agent involved, you would put in here that buyer will pay traditional seller closing costs with the exception of, and just list out liens and judgments, brokerage fees, and taxes. Okay, and that is the short form sales contract.
Okay, welcome back. Hopefully that helped you. What I want you guys to do for your homework tonight, I want you to print out at least 5 contracts, okay, and I want you to practice. Take some of those properties that you've been dealing with your driving for dollars that you've been pulling offers for, and practice filling out the contracts. You're going to take your contract information from the county records only. You are not going to take the seller's word for anything that goes on that contract. You don't want to put down a contract with a wrong legal description or wrong parcel ID or any of that stuff, or perhaps the wrong name. Sometimes sellers, and I've seen a few people get in trouble with this, where they have taken the seller's word for it, they've filled out the contract has been signed, only to find out that this particular person did not own the property because they didn't check the county records. So practice filling out those contracts. Once you get familiar with them, they should only take about 10 minutes to do. Okay, so fill out a couple of those today and comment below, #homework complete, and I'll see you tomorrow, and we're going to start talking about communicating with your sellers. So have a good day. See you tomorrow.